Notice, this video contains sarcastic commentary. Statements seemingly too unbelievable to be true probably are untrue.
Show 'em what we've got, chaps.
Greetings folks, Eeler here with another World of Warships replay. Today we have a match brought to us by Naval Alliance member Darkwing Glacier, and he is sailing the premium Tier 7 Royal Navy light cruiser HMS Belfast. Accompanying Glacier is another Naval Alliance member, Captain Blackjack Honor, who is in the premium Tier 7 U.S. Navy destroyer, the USS Sims. This is a domination match on two brothers. There are no aircraft carriers, and Glacier is middle tier. And notably on Glacier's team is a Vladivostok, which is the Tier 8 Soviet battleship that was still in testing as of the date of this battle. Glacier does take advantage of the unique commander Jack Dunkirk for the ship, and he does leverage a couple of this commander's buff skills. Now, my regular viewers know my disdain and dislike for showcasing seal clubbing matches, and maybe even more than that, I really dislike showcasing matches that involve clearly overpowered ships like the Belfast. The only reason that I even considered bringing this replay to the channel was to act as kind of a public service announcement for the community. So should you play in a battle that involves a Belfast, you know what to expect of the ship and the player. There really is no counter to the Belfast in the game, short of an action that an allied Lyon player will take quite late in the battle, and as honorable and righteous as that action is, it simply will come too late in order to affect the outcome of the game, but we'll get to that soon enough. The Glacier is moving here to the Alpha Cap to aid both the captain, who will be coming over, as well as an allied Akatsuki that has entered into the Alpha Cap, and Glacier has opened up here on this opposing Dunkirk. It is very common in these battles when a team is facing a Belfast that the opposing team will almost immediately target the Belfast as soon as it is detected, and here Glacier has deliberately put himself broadside to the Dunkirk, allowing the Dunkirk to get a Citadel hit on him, and give the opposing team some false sense of confidence that they might have a chance of winning this battle. And that's really an unfair and unsporting thing for this Belfast player to do. It's not uncommon that among players that even if normally they are very respectful and kind and sporting, in any other ship, when they play the Belfast, they kind of get into this psychosis that turns them into these very sort of taunting and selfish players, and I think we're seeing an example of that right here. And again, Glacier is allowing other ships to get strikes on him, taunting them further. Now, there are two opposing destroyers here at Alpha, and had I been one of those destroyers, I would have taken one of two actions. First, I either would have fled and I would have suggested that the other destroyer on my team flee until the Belfast was somewhere else on the map, or I might have just suggested to my allied destroyer player that we torpedo each other and just take each other out of the match rather than suffer a sinking at the hands of the Belfast. Unfortunately, neither of these destroyers seem to be familiar with the overpowered nature of the Belfast. This opposing destroyer has had his engine knocked out and he's just about to go down, and Glacier will sink that destroyer, and then he will turn his attention to sinking this other destroyer. So now that one destroyer is down, Glacier has moved to sink the other destroyer, and again, he obviously had this destroyer under radar initially, but this destroyer is now being detected by the Allies, and he is going to end up going down here. He's very low in health, but Glacier is going to be able to use the overpowered capabilities of the Belfast to clairvoyantly send shells on the destroyer and finish him off, even though the destroyer was no longer detected. The next action here will be for Glacier to put fire on the opposing battleships that have remained on the north side of Alpha. Now, again, you'll notice that the smoke screen that Glacier was in was actually laid by Captain Blackjack Honor in the Sims, and that being U.S. Navy destroyer smoke lasts a very long time, and so Glacier was able to stay in it for a prolonged time. But now that that smoke has expired, he's able to deploy his own smoke and remain in concealment and put fire on the opposing destroyers. Now, looking at the overall tactical situation, the Allied team has taken the Alpha Cap, and they did originally take the Delta Cap over on the east side of the map, but the opposing team has much better strength than the Allied team does at Delta, and so the opposing team is pushing into the Delta Cap and is now contesting it. And there was an opposing, or is an opposing Leningrad on the east side, and he was last detected on the 10 line, and should our Allied Fubuki run into that Leningrad, it's highly unlikely the Fubuki would survive that encounter. Glacier is continuing to put fire on this opposing Colorado. The Colorado is trying to get out of reach of Glacier, but the Colorado is a very slow battleship, and he really isn't going to be able to get out of reach before Glacier is able to sink him. Glacier has at least one fire burning on him. Yes, it's just one fire. And then through this HE spam, he eventually is going to sink the Colorado here in just a moment. Now, again, over on the east side of the map, the opposing Leningrad has indeed sunk the Allied Fubuki, so the east flank has no destroyers and no good spotting to provide for them. And the opposing team is now taking the Delta Cap. Glacier gets his third kill. Again, he sunk all three of the ships on the opposing team that have been sunk so far. That's unsurprising, given that Glacier is in a Belfast, and he's now going to work on this Dunkirk player. Now, his smoke has just expired, or Glacier's smoke has just expired, and he has to wait an entire 25 seconds now before his smoke is available again, which is a very long time. Fortunately, his ally, Captain Blackjack Honor in the Sims, has smoke available, and he is dropping smoke right now, and Glacier is going to back up here to try to get into some cover while he waits the next few seconds for his smoke to finally come off cooldown so that he can use it again. Glacier does get detected here by an opposing Pensacola that is on the northeast side of the Alpha Cap. Glacier does again take some serious hits here, but again, this is a reflection of the taunting that he's been doing since the beginning of the match to give the opposing team any sense of hope that they have a chance of winning this game. And Glacier has now turned his attention to this broadside Pensacola, getting one Citadel hit, and now with this next salvo, he gets a triple Citadel hit and finishes off the Pensacola. Now, one other advantage that the opposing team has given Glacier by even firing on him and doing damage to him is the adrenaline rush skill is now substantially improved his reload rate, and so that's only going to make this ship that is already overpowered even more potent. Glacier is going to continue to work on this Colorado, and again, you'll notice that there are 4 kills that the Allied team has, and all of them are with Glacier at this point. Now, again, looking at the tactical situation, the Allied team is largely congregated around the Alpha Cap, with a couple of ships that are sort of between Alpha and Delta. And then the opposing team has a large presence that is coming from the east side that will start putting pressure, on the east side. And both Glacier and the Cap will need to move over to the east side to be able to defend that flank, but also give Glacier more opportunity to sink more ships, because these other ships, opposing ships that are on this flank have realized the mistake of even being in the presence of the Belfast, and they need to stay out of his reach in order to not be sunk. So Glacier is going to move forward here, and in fact his smoke is about to expire, so there's not much value in him remaining here, and they have a very clear handle on the Alpha Cap. So he's going to move eastbound to help defend against the opposing flank that's moving from Delta. Glacier is up to over 100,000 in damage, which again is pretty boring statistic for a Belfast player. That's just kind of the norm, and there will be some achievements that he's going to earn on later in the battle, which will also be kind of just the norm for a Belfast player. Now, the captain has moved to defend the Charlie Cap, but he was detected by the opposing Leningrad, and he was sunk by the opposing Leningrad, and that has left the Allied team with one destroyer, which is the Akatsuki, and he's on the north side of Alpha, and that's probably the right place for him to be, because with Glacier here in the Belfast, he will be able to counter the opposing Leningrad very easily. But in a remarkable show of restraint, Glacier does allow his allied Baltimore to sink the Leningrad. So that was pretty altruistic, or you could perceive it as altruistic. But again, I suspect that that's a matter of some false sportsmanship being exhibited by Glacier in the game right now. So Glacier is moving over here into a position where he can fire freely into ships that are coming to onto ships that are coming to the Charlie Cap. He's going to drop smoke here. He does again have 3 ships targeting him. He allows himself to take a little more damage in order to boost his adrenaline rush that much more, and then he's going to start focusing on this broadside shores that is on the northeast side of Charlie. Looks like the shores has gone into concealment, and I can't blame him if I were on the shores and know that I was about to face Belfast, and so Glacier has now turned his attention to the opposing vanguard, which has also now gone into concealment. So right now the Allied team has no visibility on opposing ships that are on the Charlie side of the map, and Charlie is being taken. And the Allied team does have a significant point advantage, even though they have lost one of the 2 caps that they held, or actually they're losing a 3rd cap. But the Allied Akatsuki is now moving into Bravo, and that will help even up the cap counter for the Allied team. The shores has come out broadside to Glacier. Glacier is rightfully using armor piercing here. He is going to get 1 citadel here in that salvo, and then with this next salvo he is going to sink the shores, earning himself both Confederate and Kraken Unleashed for the game. And again, these are just regular run-of-the-mill boring accomplishments of a Belfast, so no particular surprises here. And then in fact here now he's earned high caliber. So again, another sort of very run-of-the-mill achievement that a Belfast player can expect. Now, one thing I should point out here that most people, or some people don't know, is that once a player acquires a Belfast, they immediately become a Super Unicum player. So no matter how well or poorly they may have played in their past experience in World of Warships, as soon as they acquire and even just have a Belfast in their port, they immediately become a Super Unicum player by definition. And that's, again, a reflection of what we're seeing here. Now, the Allied Baltimore did finish off the low health Fiji that had been in the Charlie Cap. I think this is the fact that Glacier was not able to detect and fire on the low health Fiji to get his 6th kill is probably a result of the action that Wargaming took to change the mechanics of radar. I think some people have this false belief that the changes for radar were to reduce the efficacy of radar ships, but in reality it was to try to balance and offer sort of kind of a private nerf, if you will, to the Belfast, so that other players had some semblance of chance of being able to sink ships aside from Belfast players when Belfast players were in the game. But it doesn't really matter, because Glacier was able to sink the Scharnhorst for his 6th kill, and he's now working on this low health Vanguard, and it looks like he may very well get his 7th kill. But in a moment here, I mentioned earlier how an Allied Lyon player is going to take some corrective action and take a very honorable action in order to counter the effects of this Belfast player. We're going to see that right here. And that is what you need to do to counter a Belfast player in a game. So, yeah, Glacier was team killed. So, to get a little more serious and to step away from the very sarcastic posture that I've had for most of the game, I in no way condone the action of this Lyon player. Deliberately team killing somebody like that is an abhorrent, selfish, and unsporting act, and it has no place in the game. I should also point out that just having a Belfast does not make you super unicum. What is most important in being successful in the game are your skills. I do feel that if a skilled player is in a Belfast, they probably have a somewhat easier time producing good results. But it is by no means having the ship alone is a pay to win situation or somehow makes you magically better. It doesn't. And lastly, and most importantly, Glacier rightfully did a terrific job for his team and earns top experience. And with 6 kills, a very impressive outing for a Belfast player. Even though this ship is very strong for its tier. So I certainly hope you enjoyed the commentary, as unusual as it may have been for my channel, as well as the replay. Please do leave your comments below. And as always, we hope to see you out there, and we wish you happy sailing.